Steve Holland. Welcome, everybody. I was a sports writer from Express Citizen 7483. I got into teaching, spent another 35 years teaching at Muscatine Community College. Did a lot of online work in my part-time. This has been a fun project for me. It's a very personal story, and I appreciate you coming in. So that's enough about me twice. So I was going to ask, this is the booth that I took a picture of a few years ago. So I'm going to ask people, did you have a memory of the game? I hope you do, to share. I want you to feel free to jump in. Otherwise, it's going to be very short. Did you play in the game? You ever attend one? Did you lead cheers? Do you have other memories? I just kind of like to know your connection with the booth, because my gosh, this thing already over 50 years old. So I'll shut up. Hopefully somebody will remember. And I see some familiar faces there. Mr. Ken Rue, there he is. He actually played in the game. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I can. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts about it, Ken?
Well, like you said, it's been 50 years. Memories, no. But yeah, I do. It was as exciting a game as I was in, because it was big, the first crosstown rivalry, and the fact that all of us that played in it had been classmates as sophomores in high school. So before they built West, and then they built West, and they had a year of football before we played them. So yeah, that was the very first one, and you really wanted to beat your buddies, but it wasn't the kind of rivalry where you felt like you just really didn't like the other team. You actually liked about everybody on the team. But just like, I suppose, with a brother, you can be have a pretty big rivalry wanting to beat your brother at something. So we definitely really wanted to win, but we definitely really liked and respected the West High players. And it came right down to the wire, as you know, and it looked like maybe we were going to lose, and we just had, you probably know the story better than I do writing about it, but I think we only had about 2 minutes to go when we got the ball down 21-20. And does that sound about right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, I remember, I believe we went for it on 4th down once, as I remember, around midfield, and got it. And then when we got down closer, it was a pass play from Bob Schultz to
Steve Burkett.
Steve Burkett.
Yeah.
In the end zone that won the game. And then there was still a little bit of time left, as I recall. I'm recalling this off the top of my head.
You're doing really well. 38 seconds left.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That's more than I need. And tell me if I'm wrong. I remember that one of their passes at the very end of the game was intercepted by Max Villarreal.
That's right. Yeah.
He ended up, and yeah, we were ecstatic. It was a fun time on the field. It was a fun time in the locker room after that.
Yes. Those are the kind of games where you knock someone down, but you said, "Oh, I'm sorry about that." You pick them back up.
So we didn't quite go that way.
Yeah, like Ken said, we all knew each other.
You wouldn't have wanted to hurt anyone. One other thing I remember about it was that the big crowd. It was the biggest crowd we ever. I think they said 5,000.
Yes, that's right. I remember that. Yeah.
And one of the cooks at school, of course, you get to know everybody at school, but one of the cooks in the line told me the next Monday, she said she was at the game and how exciting it was. And she said she'd never been to one of the games before, but she just loved it. So it brought out people that didn't even go to football games back then.
Yeah, the very first game. Does anyone else, I know, Michelle, you told me you moved in. I went to West High, and everybody there on your cheerleading squad was out from out of state. But I think you remember the first game. Do you remember your game? I mean, not the first game of the series, but your game. Do you have any thoughts about it?
Well, it was a freshman game. I don't really remember it very well, to be honest. We were just trying to figure out what to do with cheerleading at that time. We didn't have a lot of parental direction. And we were
Okay.
told that we could like make up our own cheers. And then we did. And then we got in a little bit of trouble for some of the cheers that we made up.
All right.
Let's hear one. Let's hear one.
I'd rather not.
Yeah, maybe we better quit there. while we're at it. Does anyone have some memories to share before we move on? I'm focusing on this first game and the memory of how the first boot got started.
Well, I went to City High,
Who is this?
graduated in
Fred.
65, and I'm not even sure ground had been broken for West High at that time.
It had not. Yeah. Okay, well, I'll move on a bit. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. It's kind of fun just to get some memories going. But so I just thought I'd put.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
Just what they're talking about cheers and stuff. I just recall that West High would do a chant of the best go to West, the best go to West. And then we had a cheer then that went, the best go to the City High, the rest go to the West.
Yeah.
You remember those couple of chants?
We were very clever in those days.
Oh yeah, you couldn't hear that now. No, they couldn't come up with that now. Okay,
Well,
go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, I appreciate the cheers. I really do, because that's kind of a big part of this, is this cheer that would go up when a team would win the boot. And I just never realized 50 some years later how this is affected. And I followed it for all these years. So I ran a few pictures coming from the Press Citizen archives. I'm just trying to say this has always been about the kids. This has always been about the cheers. And over the years, I mean, I've always heard this, we got the boot, we got the boot. And it's been quite fun just to hear that moment. I've gone to a few games past then, and whoever won would always have that that cheer at the end. And there'd always be this rush for that trophy. So it's a wonderful thing. So I think it's just this one year. I was trying to get them even out here. City High from this is West High, and West High they lost that first game, as Ken related, and I have, but they won after 5 years. Took 5 years, but they won the next 3. So I want you to think about 52 years now. What do you think is the current record for, and which school has dominated? If you kind of get a guess, so hold that toward the end. So this is, there's always that rush for the boot, and I wanted to relay here now that this is actually the second boot. This is not the original boot. Doesn't really matter, does it? Because the schools were still fighting for this symbol of football's supremacy in Iowa City, and having a lot of fun doing it. So my story is a story of the first boot coming up very soon, and this is just another one. The original boot, a little covered up here, perhaps. Don't know if you all have the gallery view here, but I'll try to read here. The first boot was actually stolen from City High one year, and I was on the Press Citizen at that time. So now this picture of the first boot at 10, and somewhere in the house I've got a picture of that first boot at 0, but this is it at 10. Just sort of see it here, what it looks like. This is just a little bit of reference to that first boot that went out. These are the first 2 coaches. I know Ken would remember. There's Clyde Bean, his coach, and I had him as a sophomore gym teacher, and I always remembered him as a guy who actually inspired me. I was working at the local grocery store, and he got us all in, guys, and that time mostly the guys in sports. And he said, "You got your whole life to work, so you only got your one time in high school to go out for sports." And I thought, oh yeah, I'm going to do that. I was a cross country track guy, but I always appreciated him. And there's Don Lamb from West Side. Now the caption of this says that he's looking on enviously. I don't know. I worked in the newspaper. I don't think I would have put that word in there just because we were objective. But he does kind of look a little envious that City High had that boot there. Ken, do you remember Clyde, working under Clyde?
Oh gosh, yeah, I loved Clyde. Um, he could be really intense, and he could be intimidating, but it was also kind of endearing to me. I know, especially some kids thought he was favored athletes in PE, but I didn't feel so much that way. But he had kind of a close. We had kind of a close feeling to him if he was your coach.
Yeah. You know, and
Yeah,
I
I
covering
remember.
him, he's also a wrestling coach, a well-known wrestling coach in the state. And when I was covering him, one thing I always remember is how he stood up for his athletes. If his athlete got a raw deal, boy, he was there, had that young man's back. So anyway, there he is with the first trophy, and there's Don looking on enviously, as the caption says.
I too had Clyde for PE,
Yes, Fred.
and I did my best, and I think he let me off the hook. But I remember one football game. I was envious of this player because Clyde put his arms around the City High player before he went out in the field. And I thought, boy, if that isn't inspiration, I don't know what is.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm seeing some more familiar faces come on, so please jump in with any thoughts you have. So here's a personal story. And as I said, I was a track guy. I ran cross country, track. Actually, one year, my first year at West High, just for the record, was fall. We didn't have a cross country team. I was the whole team, so I had to go to City High every day to work out that fall. And I worked under AC Chick Forwell, was a great guy. But that's just kind of a little thought here. Just I was pretty passionate about running, and so at the spring of our first year of West High, 69, I came up with this idea. I said, we ought to have a traveling trophy between the two schools. And I was this kind of guy, that said, and we want everybody to be represented. We wanted to have all the girls' sports, the boys' sports, and football. The last thing I wanted was just one sport to be represented. And I went to the student senate council meeting, and I thought I had a pretty good case. And we all got along really well. It was really great. But of course, one of the fellas, and I remember, was actually a guy named Mike Holm. He was on the football team, and he pointed out, and he was quite correct. He said, "Well, that should just be too complicated. What if they, met twice in basketball, even in the playoffs? Or how do you figure that out? How do you make that all equal?" I had to say he was right, and then they thought they ought to do it for football, and that was right. So they voted on that, passed it, and then they said, "And Steve, since it's your idea, you ought to be in charge." So I was like, wait a minute, didn't quite work out the way I wanted, but it worked out pretty well. So a call went out in that spring for football shoes, and I will say it was, the West High kids. I was surprised. I went in the locker room not too long afterwards, and there was this big, huge pile or sack full of football shoes waiting for me. And so I started sorting through them for the boot, and I was sorting them left and right, and they're all stacked around me. And then there a good guy, he actually, I think he doesn't really want me to tell you, but it was his boot. And Bob Kodros was a lineman for West High that fall, and he walks over and he actually had a boot in his hand. And he says, "Hey, Steve, I don't know if you want this one." He was going to enter it in the pile, and he handed it to me, and I got to say, I thought it was great because it had this spike ripped out of it, and I thought it was, pretty good. We had a pretty good laugh because I said, "Bob, I think that's the boot," and he said he, couldn't believe I was going to pick that one, but that was it. So I thought that had a lot of character, and it's a simple story. I mean, that's exactly how that first boot got selected, and I had that honor of selecting it. So. I mean, that's just how it goes. So it was late in the school year, and we took it. When I say we, my mother and I, because I didn't, my parents were one that I didn't even drive till I was 18. I had a license, I mean. And so we took it to Harry's Custom Trophy. Again, there was a lot of laughter from the owner of Harry's Custom Trophy because we said, yeah, we want you to bronze this thing. And he looked at that, because at that time, parents bronzed the baby shoes a lot, So I guess in a way we thought this was kind of in his line. But he said, yeah, you do it. He only charges $10. And it was late in the year. So it actually came home with me after it was all done. It was it was on a stand, a little small stand. And it came home with me. And it was on my dresser top that summer. So my friends would come in and say, yeah, they're going to play for that. Again, my friends are great, but they always kind of laugh. They're going to play for that, and yeah, they're going to play. They're going to play for this. And I kind of had a little connection with that boot because it was in the house for all that summer, So in the fall, I took it back to West High, and the next step was we went to Randy Rogers, and he put it on an actual box stand, and we put it in our trophy case, and we thought that we would win it again, and it would be there. The team, the West High team had a great record from the previous fall, and they were doing pretty well. So we thought, yeah, it's coming back, and I was pretty proud of it. We were all walking by it. We got kind of used to it. I guess we got a little too used to it. But we were kind of a fair bunch out there. Of course, these were our friends, as Ken had mentioned. These were our friends, and we thought, well, they're part of this, and, we ought to let them see it. I don't know if we made a mistake, because we said, yeah, it was about a week before the game. Yeah, they ought to see it. So they put it, I think, in a trophy case, and they thought, I don't know, I think we kind of might have fired that team up a little bit, although it didn't take much, when you got the first game. And again, I want to say how wonderful this has been. I just so appreciative of my colleagues, my classmates, teachers, coaches, everybody who supported this idea. Simple idea that has become something of has become a tradition over the years. Well, as it turned out, City High won that first game. And this is going to be a very quick preview of the game. Gives you an idea why we thought, well, we're going to bring it back to West High, right? And remember, I got it I got to correct that there. I see that spelling. But so coming into the game here, you can kind of see City High had some pretty big opponents, but they weren't winning, And over here, West High was doing pretty well. We had some opponents that, in the Valley was Hempstead, and here was Valley, a pretty big school. There was a mud bowl, they called it, the week before. It was a 0-0 tie. So we thought, well, the boot's coming back, right? And, we kind of thought that was it. But as Ken mentioned, it was a heck of a game. Came down to those final 38 seconds. City High scored 26 win. Quick summary, because I wanted to put some more names in here. Joe Williams, he won. He had 2 touchdowns. Bob Schultz had 1. Steve Burkett. West High, we had Dave Nielsen, Jim Malaker, Jerry Moss. For those of us who are on here now at that time of school and went there with me, or at City High West, those would be very familiar names. And the last time I had my hands on the boot was halftime of that first game. And I walked down on the field with Randy Dreyer, who was their student president. And we just had our letter jackets on. And as Ken said, there was a big crowd, 5,000 people. We showed it off, and there were some very big cheers from both sides. That was kind of gratifying. And then I also turned around, and I remember there were a couple of football players who were pretty fired up. Let me tell you, they were scouting. They were going to bring that boot back. We're going to get that trophy back. So we had started something. But so it was, it kind of scared me. I was a track guy, remember? But at least I could run on there. So just a little bit of game coverage here. So if you were to look this up, you could find it in the Old Press Citizen, or contact me. I get you a copy of this game. But if it cuts off because of the gallery here. But it was a pretty even game by statistics, except I think City High dominated in the rushing yards. It's a really small print, and my eyes are fading a bit. But let's see here if I can. I think it was 197 to 94. So City High did dominate on the ground. The passing was pretty even, and yet it was a pretty close game there at the end. Just to kind of show you how this was. Little Hawks defeat West and find West. And then there is a little editorializing here in the write-up. Just nothing bad. It's just the writer at that time, Gary Bales, was talking about what a great thing this was the first year, and you know it was a good thing. It's just a little different from the coverage as it become later. And I just grabbed this to be, you know, I had it in the yearbook at or West Side Story. We had this great opportunity as sophomores, our juniors and seniors at that time at West High. We got to start traditions. And so I was on the newspaper as well, and we all thought West Side Story. I think that might have been actually John Schmidt. I see he's joined us. Maybe that would have been John Schmidt's idea. I don't know, but we came up with West Side Story. Again, we thought we were pretty clever, and it stayed ever since. John, do you remember that? You're muted, John. I see him talking, but he's muted, so maybe Michelle could help us out there. Anyway, I see here we have Jerry Moss. And I know this is Jim Brady, and there's Doug Zeithamel. Pictures from the games, this particular game. So just again, putting some more names out there. So and I want to just again, this is some City High guys. With the boot after the first game, I listed them. There's Tom Thiel, Kevin Edwards, Jim Trump, Joe Williams, Bob Hartford, Tim Putney. And what I wanted to focus actually more than the boot in this picture was look at the smiles. You know, they had beaten West High, and it was the first game. And whew, as much as we were friends, each side did want to win that first game. You know. So this is part of the story. The boot was stolen out of the City High Physical Education office, and during my time on the newspaper, and someone also took the 46 basketball boys state title, a tennis trophy, did about $1,000 worth of damage. I got a call one day from Clyde Bean, and he told me all about it, and it was, you know, it was kind of disappointing, but it's out there somewhere, I guess. I don't know. One day I had a conversation with a young man who worked on the West Side Story years later. He claimed to know where it was, but when I pressed him, he said he didn't give me that answer. But maybe it's out there, and maybe someone listening knows where it is. I also personally do not know the story of how the second boot got started. I should, but I don't. I have heard some things, but I haven't verified them. I do know that my wonderful classmates gave me this great opportunity during our reunion in 1980 to present the new boot into the competition, so to speak. And just to let you know, our class, along with Regina, we meet for reunions when we would have met here last fall, except for gosh, COVID. But here we go, and this is a good tight class. Again, we were very close. We kept that throughout the years. Quite a bit of fun. So just to show you, this is when I had a lot of hair and a mustache. And this is the little report. This was the January 3rd, 1980. This is when I reported on the boot being taken from City High. And just, you know, there was speculation it might have been kids, I guess, because it was a lot of random damage. We don't know. We just really don't know what's happened to it. So again, maybe somebody knows. So now I'm going to give you there's a little confusion, and this is kind of like telephone. It's an odd thing. I actually discovered how it got started, this confusion, that had a different story. It was a story about how the boot had got started. And I have to laugh a bit because when I try to straighten it out, that at that time the Iowa City Press Citizen reporter, I don't know if he grew up in Iowa City or if he was small town. I mean, he actually had a pretty outstanding resource for this, but it was just wrong. And it was, again, like a telephones, you play that game telephone and something comes out incorrect. And so one of the things that I've learned about history is put the story out there. I kind of wanted just to get the correct story out there ever since. That was, it's a long time ago. But this story is now John Raffensperger, old track coach. He put it in his book on City High's records. I try to update it at Wikipedia from time to time, make sure it's still out there. And so it's been in different boots, and now you all know the original story of how the boot got started. So again, this cry that has been so gratifying over the years for me personally to hear is, we've got the boot. And if you all want to say it, feel free to do it. It's kind of fun to say, particularly when you got it. So I was going to ask you, this is 52 years now, and you can see this is the front side of 40 scores. Let's see, I think it adds up 28-12 for City High. There's some scores on the back side. This is taken in 16, and West High has won the last 4. So there's 8 scores on the back side. There's 40 here. I can tell you now, 28-12, City High has the advantage on these. What do you think the current advantage is? And I'll give you a second before I give you the answer. I remember visiting with Ken and some other guys, and they were kind of surprised. The City High has quite an advantage over the years. So here comes the answer. And I don't know if you can see it for sure, but it's 34-18. And West High has had the last 4 years. So it goes in spurts. There have been times when City High has, of course, just has had outstanding teams and state titles and dominated. And you think it would kind of swing back and forth more, but over the years, that's what it's been. And
West Guy's had some dominating teams too.
Yes.
State champs and stuff.
Exactly. But they're kind of coming up, particularly in the last few years,
Yeah.
And then when you get the intercity play, there's some pretty close scores on this. And anybody wants to just kind of talk a little bit more about it, feel free to connect with me.
Well, I would like to just throw something out there that I've never told anyone, I don't think. This will be the first. I waited 50 years to say it. But that first game might have turned out differently. Steve Burkett was in a way, the hero of the game. I possibly could have been the GOAT if there had been one. This is a big confession, and any other time I would deny it that I ever said it. But on 4th down and whatever it was around midfield, when we went for it in that last drive and got it, I hung my head for a second and was disgusted with myself, because on that play where we got the first down on 4th and 5 or whatever, I actually clipped someone. I blocked somebody in the back, and that would have negated the first down and put us way back. The game could have turned out differently. I've never admitted that to anyone. So you guys are the first ones to know. Moss, all you guys, Schmidt, you can give me grief if you want to, but with COVID, I don't think you'll come near here, so I'm okay.
It won't make any difference now.
Right. But I was so relieved when I didn't see a flag. Oh my God.
I bet you were, but there are probably plays that got missed, penalties. There's always penalties missed. Yeah. So, actually, though, it kind of makes me feel a little better, not only about you, Ken, but about the game. This is how it came out, and that's just it. Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing
Well,
that.
I had
It's
some
on
good.
it's going to be on YouTube now, Ken. I'll let you know
Oh,
that.
good. Oh, good. I probably won't come to the next class reunion, but
No,
not
no,
that
no.
anyone cares too much by now anyway, but
It'll be like Spartacus. Somebody else will jump up and say, "They missed this. They missed this."
yeah.
You
Well, and
know,
I had some good plays too. I don't want that was the only thing.
yeah, you had a few. Yeah.
But that would have been what I was remembered for if that. So
Yeah,
I was
I forgot that it was actually 4th and 5 that you guys went on. 4th and 5. Wow.
I believe,
forgot
well,
that.
I don't know, it's 4th and something as I recall.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
My gosh. Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing. Yeah. So you didn't have to. Yeah. So
We have
that's like I said. That's kind of.
Well, it's just a big weight off my shoulders. Big monkey on my back all these years that I just never said it. You know.
And here it is. I'm glad you did it on my show here, so to speak.
I'll sleep better tonight. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. We'll check in with you in the morning.
Yeah. Okay.
We still love you, Ken.
Mr. Stiglitz. Say, are you Carl's older brother? Are you related to Carl Stiglitz, Fred?
My brother.
Yeah, I thought so. I wasn't sure. Well, it's nice to see you.
The pleasure is mine. Now, you would have attended City High. When did you graduate?
In 1970, along with Steve and Jerry
Okay.
Moss and a lot of, yeah.
Yeah, so you would have been at Southeast Junior High when I was graduating from City High.
Okay. Sounds about right. Yeah. Well, it's nice to meet you. Carl is a good guy. I always like him. He is a good guy.
Yeah, he gets his personality from me.
Well, I knew I had to be somewhere great. Somebody he was emulating.
So anybody else with some closing thoughts on the boot and
there are a
some
couple.
stories they haven't revealed?
Steve, there's a couple chats here that I just wanted to point out to you.
Okay.
David asks from earlier, when did the name change from Hawklets? I think that's Hawklets to Little Hawks.
Well, that's a good question. I think, and Ken, you'll have to, and maybe John and others that are on here. I think they were always called the Hawklets and Little Hawks. I think they were interchangeable, but then it became more Little Hawks, and particularly Southeast and I think we always refer to ourselves as the Hawklets or Baby Hawks or Hawklets. I don't know. Ken, do you know?
I never was aware that City High was called Hawklets. Southeast was always the Hawklets.
Yeah.
And I thought City High was always the Little Hawks, but I could be wrong.
It could have been just the way that newspaper reporters started to use it, perhaps. That's probably what it is. I don't recall writing Hawklets. I might have. I think I always said Little Hawks. I don't know. That's a good question. But anyway, I remember, we used to have the books where you put you got the covers on them. And I remember the books always had Hawklets at Southeast. I think it was Hawklets. Yeah, that's what it was. So. Other thoughts, questions that you have, Michelle, there?
Yeah, the other one is from Phyllis. She asks, how does Liberty figure into this?
Great question. And I think that it's got to be up to those young people to set their tradition. But yeah, I always kind of was, I always thinking that there'd be a conversation that they would have between the schools. Maybe they extend this, maybe they have their own, probably more, back and forth. Remember, my ideas get voted on. I'm afraid to speak up for fear of getting it organized. But, they'll have to do that. I think they've already had some pretty good games. So, I think the young people will do that on their own. Great question. And I was, because it isn't just one rivalry now, is it? So, so I don't know. Yeah, be careful. If you give them a call, you might end up getting it together. Any others there, Michelle?
No, that's it for now. I'll let you know if something else pops up.
Has anybody else got an open-ended question before we close? So I just kind of like this last picture, pulled up. And if you want to shout out, we've got the boot. Feel free to do, particularly if you're inside this afternoon. But we got it. And just for fun, this is a picture. We had a pretty good cartoonist at the Press Citizen there for years, and I found this, so I guess I had to share it. And this is what I'm relating, actually, just for a reference. I wrote up in a City High West High program about 10 years later, 1978. I wrote that up. Just to sort of reference, and this is the overall story. I have that around. If anybody wants it, I can certainly send a copy of it to you so you have it on record. But that's it. There's the show. There's the conversation. Michelle, do you have a thought? Michelle, you're muted.
Of course. I was trying to get your attention. David, I believe, was trying to chime in. And
Oh, I'm sorry, David.
No, I just had the question. I mean, the closest I got to this game is I grew up in Rochester, Minnesota, and pre-conference we played Waterloo East when Reggie Roby was there. We lost the game on 3-pointers.
Oh my gosh. Was Reggie Roby kicking the ball like he did at Iowa?
Yeah. It would bounce off the building 30 yards outside the field, off the roof.
Yeah, Hayden Fry used to say that, I mean, we'd sit in the clinic and it would go higher than the top seat, And he said, actually, the problem is he kicks it so high with such hang time that it takes a long time. It just takes a long time for the special team to get down there. All kind of stand around watching it come down.
Yeah,
Am I unmuted?
45, yeah.
Now we have a special treat for you as we close. Jim Canadle's with us, and Jim's he's going to have one of these sessions in a couple weeks, which everybody can attend. And Jim's there. I hear him. He wrote a book.
Yes.
He wrote a book on a fiction book on. Well, he's going to tell us about it. So there you go.
Well, I didn't anticipate this, but it's basically, as I went through sports, you always compare eras, like which era is better than the.
We lost you, Jim.
We'll say, other people will say Carl Lewis is the best, or you get Michael Jordan or LeBron James. So that's kind of where the nugget started. And then the book is basically just written from a father's point of view in high school and his son's point of view in high school. And I bounce back and forth between the two eras. And I think what it does is allow you to contrast the two eras, makes it simple to see. Like I didn't have spikes when I first started cross country. And if you saw a high school kid now that didn't have spikes, I wouldn't believe it. And when Steve and I were in college, we had cotton gym shorts and a gray t-shirt and sweats are made out of cotton. You didn't have anything fancy. Now they have, $100 and $300, $400 worth of sweats and stuff like that. So it's a different era. And that's basically where I came from. So I just went back and forth between the East High athlete and it's the other half of the book set in Illinois, the LaGrange. If anyone knows LaGrange, Illinois, that's where the other half of the story is set. So I just went back and forth. But that's what it is.
I should have told you a little bit. Jim, he ran for City High. I ran for West. When I first met Jim, we actually we kind of ran into each other. It's like hi. And we said, hey, you want to run? We just became great friends and running mates ever since. And Jim has had a terrific career in coaching track over the years. And so I think it's wonderful that he's written this book, and he's going to be back in a couple of weeks just to kind of tell you more about it. So I hope you'll join us at that time. Yeah.
Kenny Rue is in it, so I know he's going to be. He's going to have book signings later on. He'll underline his name and then sign it.
Right, I'll do that unless people find out I could have blown the City High West game. They might me to sign it. But yes, Jim, and I ordered it. I didn't want it on ebooks. I wanted to wait till it came out in softback or hardcover, and so I did get it just recently, and it's still in the package. My wife's going to give it to me for a Christmas present, so I'll be reading it right after Christmas. I'm looking forward to it.
You'll enjoy it.
I think so.
Any closing thoughts, Michelle?
I don't have any closing thoughts. I was looking at the other David on the screen that might have had a comment.
Yeah, I was a junior the year of the first at City High. Though I didn't play football, I had a lot of friends that did. I found that period interesting in City High football, that the year before, the team wasn't very good, and by the time that my class was, they were seniors, the team got real good, and Clyde Bean was a gym coach, and as Steve, as you mentioned, players in that game and stuff. I hadn't thought about some of those guys in a long time, but this is a real treat to remember those days. And it was quite a crowd, and boy, we were jammed in the stands that night, and it was a really fun celebration afterwards.
The thing I remember, one of the things I remember is, of course, we were West High at this point, but we also, we had so many friends, so it's kind of hard to, and I remember though, the next day, we all got up and we took the ACTs together, we ended up in the university chemistry lab or lecture hall, and there we were, we were, there wasn't anything, we focused on something else, and it was like, oh, okay, that happened last night, now we're moving on. So it was a great thing. Yeah.
Good time, Steve.
Thank you for that, Dave. I appreciate that. It's been a fun thing. I'm very gratified. Over 50 years of this, and for a young guy who just had this little idea, and it got improved, and people just reached out and did it. And I've always seen, I just trying to figure in my head how many people have clapped their hands and cheered and been involved in this over the years. So hopefully it gets another 50 years. I don't know. So I hope so it does. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm talking with Michelle, maybe coming back in a month with another idea, but we'll see. I got an idea, Michelle, but I'll run it by you before we go forward. So thank you.
I want to thank both of you for doing this. It's been fun.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate it.
One new chat here. It says Clyde Bean was my driver education instructor. You can imagine how that went. He only taught that one semester.
Just one link to that, or one sidelight to that, was I had somebody else for driver's ed, but yeah, he could make his eyeballs twice the size that they were normally. Just scare the daylights out of you. One person said that they had him for driver's ed, and I can't remember who it was, but that they were driving along and someone just going the speed limit, and somebody passed them, and they said, Clyde Bean said, "Are you going to let them do that?" And so they hit the gas, and then he chewed them out for. He said, "You can't let somebody influence you to go fast, to speed like that." They're just about wetting their pants,
Oh, geez.
I stepped away for a moment, but my driver's ed teacher was George Bowman.
Yeah, mine too.
Yep.
Mine was Adams. I can't remember his first name, but yeah, it was in the summertime.
And I put the fear of God into everyone riding with me because I had never driven a car before.
Oh dear.
Okay, full disclosure, she says stick shift went from first to reverse.
Ouch.
Yeah, that'll do it. Well, yeah, he was quite a guy, but he always had your back. I'll tell you that. He always had your back. So,
Yep. When we had the last football practice my senior year, 69 season there. The last practice, all the seniors were in a line and walked by him to shake his hand, and he'd, tell us good luck, and we'd say thank you. And
Yeah.
I remember I wasn't the only one that got choked up. And I just really thought a lot of him. He invested a lot in us. I know some kids didn't like him, they were intimidated. But yeah, he meant a lot to a lot of us.
Thank you, everybody. This has been wonderful. It was better than I had hoped, and a little bit of time in life in Iowa City, and here all this time later. And you guys all know the original story for what it's worth of how the first boot. If you know where that first boot is, let me know. And if you know how the second boot got started, whose shoe that was, let me know. So, I'm always curious. I should have found out earlier, but I let that one go by. So take care, everybody. Be safe.